Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Ice Cold Takes podcast. I'm your host, Joey DeMeglio. The New York Rangers already, after 2 weeks, just 14 days after they fired Peter Laviolette, they have their next head coach. It is Mike Sullivan. Surprisingly, he was let go by the Pittsburgh Penguins earlier this week, I believe on Monday. And as predicted by so many of the reporters that cover the Rangers and the league for that matter, the Rangers were all over Sullivan. There was talk that he would go to Boston to be with his son-in-law, Charlie McAvoy, but he didn't want to be part of a rebuild. He clearly wants to go to a win now team, and the Rangers are that. Um, I say that, and the Rangers had a absolutely terrible season and are looking to make some big changes. And what better way to start with the head coach? I mean, Chris Drury finally gets his guy. It's been widely reported, it's probably the worst kept secret in the league that Chris Drury wanted Mike Sullivan to be his head coach when he hired Gerard Gallant, when he hired Peter Laviolette. The problem was Sullivan wasn't available. And finally, the third time's a charm. He becomes available in the third coaching cycle for Drury, and now he's back with the Rangers. If you remember, Sullivan is familiar with the Rangers organization. He was the assistant coach to John Tortorella from 2009 to 2013. Back in those years, the black and blue shirt years. Um, so him coming back to the Rangers is a good thing. I think this is the best hire that they could possibly have if they want the best shot at winning the Stanley Cup either next year or the following year, within the next 3 seasons. But the Rangers have to make sure this is not a two years and done coach, just like the last 2 head coaches. This has gotta be a long-term solution here. Um, Sullivan spent 10 years with the Penguins, and he leaves them and gets the biggest contract for a head coach in NHL history. I say this is money well spent, and I believe he's still on the hook. The Penguins still owe him money, so whatever the Penguins owe him, plus the money the Rangers are giving him, I mean, he's sitting pretty, Sullivan is. So good for him. I hope it works out with the Rangers. I'm sure other Ranger fans, I know other Ranger fans are also hoping for the same. He won 2 Stanley Cups right away with the Penguins, back-to-back years. In the salary cap era, that's a incredibly difficult thing to do. I remember when he first took over the Penguins were an underachieving team. Remember those years they lost to the Rangers in the second round when they had Dan Bylsma as the coach, right? They were up 3-1 on the Rangers in 2014. They blew that lead, lost the series at home in Game 7, and then the following year, the Rangers were the best team in the league. Penguins squeak into the playoffs. I forget who their head coach was, and the Rangers took care of them in 5 games. Remember Hagelin's overtime winner? And then there was just so many questions for the Penguins. They made the move for Phil Kessel, and they needed a new coach, someone to bring that locker room together. Sullivan was the answer. He was coaching their minor league team, their AHL team. He comes in, makes a huge difference, and they win two straight Stanley Cups. They were the best team in the league for those 2 years. Not from like a record perspective, but when it came time for the playoffs, they got the job done. And they had the best players. They were the deepest team. Remember that third line of Hagelin, Bonino, Kessel? Rangers should have never let go of Hagelin. So he knows what he's doing here. He's also worked with USA. He coached them at the Four Nations. I was very impressed with how that team was. I don't know how much time he got to spend like at practices and stuff, but he's involved at an international level, and I like what USA hockey has been doing with their players. I feel like the stronger players have been coming out of the draft, the more well-rounded players. So that's a good thing. Another thing to point out that I really like this hire is although Sullivan and the Penguins missed the playoffs the last 3 seasons, you have to look at their rosters. Man, they had terrible, terrible personnel. Aside from Crosby, Malkin, Letang, and I guess Erik Karlsson, they really didn't have much to go on with that team. Yet they were still a consistently good 5-on-5 team. So this stat here. I was on Twitter and I saw one of the accounts, NYR Louis, was talking about the Penguins were top 10 in expected 5-on-5 goals the past 4 seasons and 8 out of 10 years of Sullivan's tenure with the Penguins. The Rangers have never been in the top 15 in that stat in that same time frame. The Rangers, as we know, are a very bad 5-on-5 team offensively, and then defensively this year, they gave up probably the most high danger chances. Definitely the rush game was terrible for the Rangers. That was at the bottom, the worst, if not one of the worst, one of, if not the worst in the league, rush defense, that is, for the Rangers. And he brings an emphasis on a transition game, but he's also a good blend. I feel like he's young enough where he's got a good blend, almost like Craig Berube, where he has a good understanding of what today's game is, and he knows what he wants for the game, right? Like, a little bit of a combination of like Peter Laviolette. So Laviolette's an old school mentality, whereas Sullivan has a bit of both, old school and new school. And that's what the Rangers should be prioritizing. That's a good thing. Me and a lot of people were saying that the Rangers should go for a young head coach, do what like the Capitals did with Spencer Carberry and find a new school head coach. I think this is a happy medium here because you have a guy that's won 2 Stanley Cups and someone that's been around the league for a long time, but also someone that's won those cups in a recent enough time where it's, he's adapted to the game. And with the success that he's had, or not even that much success in the last 3 seasons, but getting those results at 5-on-5 with such a mediocre roster is very impressive. So he must be doing something right. That's a good thing. I was listening to Vince Mercogliano's podcast the other day, and he had a Penguins reporter, Matt Wenzel. I recommend, if you're listening to this, go listen to that after listening to this. Wenzel said that Sullivan likes more mobile defensemen in in the defensive zone, and he uses a zone defense. That's right up the Rangers' alley. We've been calling for zone defense for months, and Laviolette never made the change, and the Rangers continued to struggle. They could not play man to man. They didn't have the right guys to do it, and as a result, they struggled. They had a hard time. Shesterkin had one of his worst seasons, if not his worst season, in the NHL. Sullivan's also. They were talking about it. He's also a north south guy. And that's the thing that Chris Drury seems to be hammering home. He wants the Rangers, his team, to be a forechecking team, a north-south team. Get rid of the risky passes or get rid of as much of them as you can. And we've seen those passes so many times where they overpass and they miss a shot on goal. And even when they try a cross ice pass, get intercepted or blocked and go the other way, and they get a good chance. The opponent gets a good chance or even a goal the other end. That's what the Rangers need to be improving coming into this season and for the future with Sullivan behind the bench. I think this is a good fit for the Rangers. They already have some guys that could fit that play style. I'm talking about like Rempe, Berard, like Will Cooley could be even better than he was this season, which is hard to believe because he was so good this season. Othman could even have a good season, break out with Mike Sullivan. But don't sell yourself just on this and say like, all right, the Rangers are back next season. They don't need to make any moves, don't need to make any changes personnel-wise. They'll be fine. We're going back to the playoffs. No. It's a great hire, but there is still more work to be done with this roster. You can't go into the next season with the exact same personnel. We saw how bad the defense was. It's going to take more than a scheme fix to, right the ship here. It's really been the last 2 seasons that we've seen the Rangers' flaws in this department, defensively, that is. and I don't think they have the right combination of players to be good defensive. I think they need to switch some of them out, whether that's Schneider and maybe Keandre Miller or one of there's 17 different bottom pair guys. Um, they need to make changes defensively. I think that's the biggest priority here. Another priority is a third line center. And the Rangers just signed Yuso Parson into an extension. Now, this was pretty surprising. They signed him to a 2-year extension, $1.25 million per year. The Rangers are really tight up against the cap this offseason. I believe they had $9.67 million in cap space. So what does that take them down to? Like 8.4-ish million dollars in cap space. And then you have to re-sign Will Cooley, who teams could go after in restricted free agency. I've been hearing from a lot of insiders, and Keandre Miller they have to re-sign. Also, they have to re-sign Rempe and Adam Edstrom. I don't think those guys will be too expensive, but giving Parson in 1.25 million is very interesting considering he didn't play that much after the Rangers acquired him. Now, in those games, I really did not see much from him. As you guys know, I am an optimist. I try to look for silver linings, but honestly, I did not see it with him. I could be wrong. I know other people feel the same way as me and that they didn't see it much with him, but there are some people that are saying that he does have uh, a good skill set to complement the style of play that the Rangers want to have. I just haven't seen it yet. Uh, Rangers Central says, like Statboy Steven said yesterday, it's like hiring the best chef in the world and having shit ingredients. Oh, he's talking about Mike Sullivan. Yeah, exactly what I'm saying is like you can't go into next season with the same roster. Uh, and then on to Parson and giving him that money to Ranger Central says giving him that money to be a poor man's Brodzinski makes no sense, and they didn't play him down the stretch. If they're making changes supposedly, then where does he fit in? Yeah, yeah. Um, that was really a head scratcher from Laviolette is why he didn't give enough reps to guys that could be here next season, like Othman, Perreault, Parsonen, Matthew Robertson even. I mean, Robertson probably wasn't even on him, like, that's on Drury to call him up earlier, but maybe Hartford was pushing for the playoffs. I don't know. I don't know their situation down in the AHL. But, yeah, definitely a head scratcher to give him this money, give Parsonen this money, especially if you're just gonna healthy scratch him. Now, if I had to guess, I would say that the Rangers expect him to make the roster at the very least, make the roster out of training camp and be on the opening night lineup. Uh, but just having it be an expectation, I mean, that's a head scratcher for me. It could work out though. He's only 24. He doesn't have a lot of mileage on him, and you never know here. So, like, if it does work out, $1.25 million for a third line center is really, really good. That would help the Rangers a lot. But right now, it's actually hurting them because that's that's a larger than normal salary. The Rangers need all the help they can get. His qualifying offer, I believe, was only 900K, and he got $1.25 million. So that's a bit more than the Rangers needed it to be. So it's not right now. It's pretty expensive because we're looking at him as a healthy scratch. But on the upside, the ceiling I would say is he's an everyday player. You know, uh, the Rangers scouted him and they obviously saw something in him. I'm not seeing it. Other people in the fan base aren't seeing it. So I just have a big question mark with this. I need to see more from him before I'm able to come to a conclusion on whether this is a good or a bad contract. Right now, it's not looking good. I'll say that. Um, on top of that, I don't get how he got 50% more than his qualifying offer. Dominic Kim says that contract is tradable. Yeah, and it's also variable. So I believe you could bury up to $1.15 million in the minors. So that would leave the Rangers with 100K on the against the cap, and that's nothing. That's fine. Making more money to be worse than Brodzinski and Carrick is just very odd to me. Also, I feel like this will take a spot away from the younger guys. Yeah, that last part about the taking a spot away from the younger guys, that was my first thought was like the Rangers have gone this route where they do sign like older guys and we're expecting the younger guys to be in, but then all of a sudden they signed an older guy and it's like, well, what are you doing? Are you giving like Cooley or Othman the chance to play or are you not? Are you giving it to the veteran? Right? Because like, why would you send a veteran down to the minors? Like, that probably wouldn't rub over well with the veteran. See, like that doesn't make sense to me. Um, but there, Parsonen and Brodzinski, that's an interesting conversation as who's going to be the third line center for the Rangers. Neither of those guys move me. I like Brodzinski as a 13th forward. I thought he had a good end of the season, and the guys in the locker room seem to like him. And I like that he's around for the younger like Othman and Cooley and Rempe and Edstrom because he played with them with those guys in Hartford. And honestly, I do like Brodzinski, but as a third line center, that doesn't move the needle for me. I know his contract is very cheap, like less than $1 million you could get him for. That's value, and he was giving you goals. He's probably the one of the only guys that has a shoot first mentality on the Rangers, and that helped a little bit on the power play, which struggled tremendously down the stretch. But I don't see him as a guy that's going to be on the power play when the Rangers are at their best, and I don't see him as a third line center on a cup winning team or probably even a playoff team, unfortunately. He's a good guy to fill in. Perfect 13th forward for me. Like, that's cheap enough for that. Uh, they need to find a third line center, but priority number 1 is that defense, right? Like, okay, so you have Sullivan. Maybe you fill out the rest of your bench. Maybe you bring back Tortorella, to run the defense. Still does not move me in the slightest. Like, you gotta get better personnel in there. You keep Fox, sure, but the rest of the defense, I don't think is untouchable. Like, in the past, the Rangers have made Braden Schneider an untouchable. I don't think those exist anymore. Aside from Fox, I don't think the Rangers have any untouchables. Uh, if they could flip Schneider and get a second pair defenseman, a proven second pair defenseman, do it, man. Do it. I don't care what you have to pay. Like, even if you have to add a draft pick to make the value work out, or even if the guy's contract is a little bit pricey, because I don't think Borgen, who's being paid like a second pair defenseman, is a second pair defenseman. He's more of a bottom pair defenseman. That I could be wrong on that. Maybe the change in uh behind the bench will help him a lot more than we think. But to me, from what I've seen, he had a good start, Borgen did. Once he got the extension, I don't know, a little too much money for me as a as a uh, what I'm calling a third pair defenseman. Um, now I want to talk a little bit about the playoffs in the NHL. I want to show you guys my bracket here because I'm actually pretty proud. I'm pretty proud of my bracket so far. Let's see. How do I do this? Share screen, and then hang on a second. I'm pretty proud of my bracket here. So far, uh, I have like the Eastern Conference like completely predicted perfectly. The only thing was I said the uh, Hurricanes and the Devils was going 6 games. That ended in 5 games. Uh, then Winnipeg is screwing me over here. Connor Hellebuck, man. What the hell are you doing, man? What are you doing? Man, that series should be over, and it's going to 7. I think St. Louis is gonna win. It's gonna screw me up here. I also had Vegas over Minnesota in 6, Edmonton over LA in 6. I got that right. I was getting nervous because LA went up 2-0. They were looking really good. And then thank you, McDavid. Thank you, Draisaitl. And thank you, LA Kings defense for screwing it up. This one here, Colorado and Dallas, man. I want to let you guys know, originally, I had Dallas winning the Stanley Cup. And then I found out Jason Robertson was week to week with an injury. So I was saying to myself, "Oh, damn, that's a huge loss." That's in the series this tight. I knew it was going to go 7. I had a feeling it was going to go 7 games because this is like, to me, this is a matchup. Whoever wins this could win the Stanley Cup. And it's crazy to think because it's a first round matchup. The NHL's got to change their playoff format, man. I don't like that. That's so bad. Uh, it's a good series here, but I don't know. I just have a feeling Colorado is going to win now. So basically, I had Dallas going originally. I had Dallas going all the way to the finals and beating the Panthers, winning the Stanley Cup. And once I found out Robertson was hurt, I changed it. Colorado was going to beat Dallas, and then when I had Dallas or Winnipeg and Colorado, I'm looking at the goaltending. I'm like, Winnipeg always chokes in the playoffs. They haven't gotten it done. They were the best team this season, but I still don't have confidence in them to get the job done. I have more confidence in Colorado to do it. Now, it could come back to bite me. They might not even Colorado. I could get my bracket screwed up tonight, and all this stuff won't even matter. Like, I predicted everything perfectly so far. Nothing will matter if I get this one game wrong, because Colorado's going all the way to the finals in my bracket. Hellebuck is terrible. But once I went through this matchup, Colorado and Winnipeg, I figured, I don't have faith in Winnipeg. I don't think they're good enough to win the cup because they're not getting the goaltending, and they just always seem to choke in the playoffs. So I picked Colorado, and then Edmonton. I wasn't gonna go Edmonton and Florida again in the finals, so I picked Colorado, and and then I just ultimately decided Colorado is gonna beat the other Florida team and win the Stanley Cup. 40 goals in the finals is the tiebreaker. The one matchup that I think could go the other way, actually, I think Toronto has a shot at beating the Panthers. Why? Because Craig Berube. Berube is the one guy I'd want behind my bench uh, if I had to go up against Florida. Any other coach, I wouldn't have. It would be tough. It would be tough. But Berube's won a Stanley Cup before, and he's got that old school, new school blend. He understands today's game really well. If you remember when we had him on the podcast a few years ago, um, he understands the analytics side of it, but he also understands the old school part of it, and that's really important too. If any team's going to beat Florida in the East, I think it's going to be Toronto. Like, I don't see Washington or Carolina being able to beat them in the conference finals. The only way I see it is Toronto in the second round. Now you guys could be cooking me in the comments. I haven't even been checking. Let me see. McJesus and Draisaitl just had assisted on 2 of the last 9 goals. McDavid with 2, Draisaitl with 1 assist. So this is just an LA Kings collapse then, pretty much in that series. Give me 1 second here. Lots of talking, man. But yeah, the Winnipeg Jets. I'm ready to get into this conversation here about Connor Hellebuck. I got to pull up his stats in the playoffs. They're absolutely abysmal, and I knew it making the bracket. I knew it. Like, his postseason stats are always really bad. He always drops the ball in the playoffs against other teams. Doesn't even matter who he's playing. It's just really bad. Like, you're playing St. Louis. You won the President's Trophy and you're going to 7 games with them, like, come on, man. You gotta get the job done. Like, 783 save percentage in game 6, 842 save percentage in game, 5. Game 4, a 5-1 loss to St. Louis, 722 save percentage, and then he lets in 6 goals in game 3 against St. Louis, 760 save percentage. I mean, his playoff stats have been abysmal. Like, the first couple of seasons were not bad, and then, like, the last 3 seasons, uh, save percentage, 886 in 2022-2023, 864 in 2023-2024, 815 save percentage this season, and he's allowed 23 goals. He's faced 124 shots. Goals against average 442 in 6 games. Last season in 5 games, 523 save percentage. Like, this guy, people say he's the best goaltender in the world. That's false. That's cap. No way. I still think it's between Vasilevsky and Shesterkin. Now, you could be laughing your ass off in the comment section, um, but if you can't get the job done, if you're getting paid that much money and you can't get the job done, what are you doing, man? What are you doing? Like, look at the difference in goaltending here. Like, Binnington doesn't make nearly as much money as the best goaltenders, but he's coming up with the saves he needs to make, and that's why the Blues are in the position they're in. This is why the Jets are playing a game 7 is because they're not getting the goaltending, right? Like, these are and these aren't like high quality shots. I was watching the highlights from yesterday's game. Those weren't high danger, like, big chances that you would see like the Rangers give up. These are like shots that you need him to save. The easy clear sight shots. Like, no screens, nothing. No cross, like, no 2-on-1s or anything like that, no breakaways, just shots that are beating him. For a guy that's making $8 million is terrible. His goals saved against above average, minus 10.6. Oh my god. Yeah, the Hellebuck, like, if you switch the goaltenders, if you just switch Binnington and Hellebuck, this series is over in 5 games at most. You put Shesterkin or Vasilevsky on the Jets and swap out Hellebuck, they're winning the Stanley Cup. There's no doubt in my mind, because those are the guys that have proven that they can come through in the playoffs when they need it. You've seen Vasilevsky's stats, like, when the Lightning are winning a series and they're have the team in an elimination game, he's like unbeatable. He's like unbeatable. Now, the Lightning definitely don't have as good of a roster anymore as they did when they won those 2 Stanley Cups back to back. They still have a good team though. I just think that the guys like Shesterkin and Vasilevsky, even Binnington, they get the job done when it matters. Hellebuck is shit in the bed. Uh, Vazzy wasn't that much better than Hellebuck. All of those candidates are at the end of the rankings. Just Skinner is even worse. Yeah, from everything I've heard, Stuart Skinner was like really bad in those first 2 games uh, against the Kings, and he's not that good of a goalie. He did have a really good run last season. I think he had really good elimination game numbers, and that's good. That's like the best thing to have for a team if you're like really pushing for a cup, is having a goalie that saves the day in elimination games. That you have that rock back there, that brick wall. That if you make a mistake, the goalie's going to be there to bail you out when you really need it the most. You shouldn't be giving up those chances, but if they do happen, the guy is there to save you. That's why I think, like, Hellebuck is not the guy there for Winnipeg, and until he finds a way, like, even in the 4 Nations, I had that feeling like, all right, this guy in big games, he chokes. He's done it for years. It just always seems to be the issue with him. That first run he had in 2018, they they played 17 games. I think he got to the conference finals that year. That's the year they played Vegas in the conference finals. He was good in that season. He was good in that playoff run, but, like, ever since then, not that good. Not that good. It's just yeah, like, even even if, like, how I had it, if Winnipeg does manage to pull out game 7 at home and they move on to play the winner of, Colorado and Dallas, even if it's Blackwood, who I think is the worst goaltender out of Ottinger, between him and Ottinger, even if it's against Blackwood, I'm still picking Colorado over Winnipeg, which is crazy. It's like, I think Winnipeg has the best overall team, but when the goaltender is not making the saves that he needs to make at the most opportune times, then you're screwed. You're screwed. We saw it with Freddie Anderson last season. The Hurricanes were up 3-1 in the 3rd period of game 6, looking like they're gonna force game 7, come all the way back from 3-0 and force a game 7 against the best team in the league, the Rangers, and then Anderson shits the bed. He lets in a couple soft goals. The first 2 goals he gives up to the Rangers were soft goals. He fell down on the Panarin goal, and then Kreider, the puck was on his skate, and he couldn't cover it, and Kreider just poked it in, and then the Rangers just took off after that. He gave them an inch, and the Rangers took a mile. That's the thing here. It's like in his losses, Hellebuck's losses, he's given up more than 5 goals. That's not good. Uh, I wanna see what was it in game 1? Uh, game log, playoffs. Game 1, St. Louis. Uh, he let in 3 goals. The only good game he had was game 2. He only allowed 1 goal. Uh, then the next win they had in game 5, he allowed 3 goals. 8.42 save percentage. Game 1, 8.24 save percentage. 9.55 save percentage in game 2. That's the only good game that he had. Everything else is terrible. 8.15 save percentage for Hellebuck. Terrible, man. Terrible. I'd rather Shesterkin. I'd rather pay the extra money for him. Uh, yeah, that's all I'll say on the playoffs. I want to transition a couple more things before we wrap up the show. Baseball, New York Mets. I believe they're still the best team in the MLB. They have 22 wins. They were the first team to 20 wins. Everything looks good so far. Very exciting time to be a Mets fan, but not without frustration. Last week they had a huge lead. They were up like 7-1 on the Nationals in like the 7th inning, and they blew it. I guess Nationals Park is just a nightmare to play in for the Mets. Then they won the next day against the Nationals, split that 4-game series. I don't even know what the final score of that was. It was like 15-9 or something like that. Nimmo had 9 RBIs. Uh, it's good that he's starting to come around because he's was struggling a lot. Maybe the plantar fasciitis had a big thing to deal with it. Because going back to the second half of last season, he hasn't really been that impressive. But it's good to see him start to pick up the pace a little bit. Struggles with the Mets are struggling to hit with runners in scoring position. My God, this seems to be like the main issue with every single season. Like, as long as I've been a Mets fan, getting the big hit seems to be the biggest issue for the Mets. It's never really like pitching. If it's pitching, it's the bullpen. That's the problem. But offense, runners in scoring position, the Mets were like 0 for 12 or 0 for 13 over against the Diamondbacks in games 2 and 3 of that 3-game series earlier this week. That needs to change. Like, the Mets need to find more balance in the line. They got to get more contribution from the bottom part of their lineup. I like what I saw from Francisco Alvarez last night against the Cardinals. 3 hits and they were all to the opposite field, I believe, and he drove in 3 runs. That's what I like to see. It's not just Lindor, Alonso, and Soto coming up with the big hits. I need Vientos to start pulling his weight more, and he was starting to hit a little bit recently, but then, I mean, in the big spots, the 2 games against the Diamondbacks that the Mets lost, he came up empty with runners in scoring position a few times. That wasn't good. Um, can't just keep relying on Luis Torrens to get you a big hit. Like, Marte's gotta come through. Winker, uh, McNeil, he's back in. He's healthy now and playing center field now for some reason, which is wild. Like, those guys need to pull their own weight. That's where I think the Mets could run into a problem. The starting pitching is awesome, continues to be good. Uh, they had some minor league guy come up the other day, hadn't pitched at all this season, has only made, I think it was only his 12th major league appearance, and he went like 4 and a third innings and allowed no runs. And then after that, the bullpen kind of imploded. Ryan Stanek has been terrible last 3 of his last 4 outings. Last night was good. He got the job done, but he blew like 3 saves pretty much in his like last 3 appearances before last night. So the bullpen is starting to struggle a bit. Buto, uh, he's like, when he's on, he's on. He's like a placement pitcher. His pitches have nasty movement, but if he can't find the strike zone, he struggles a lot. He starts to walk guys, and that's his issue. His pitch count goes up, gets tired, whatever it is, and he's not effective. And that's what the deal was against the Nationals. He allowed like 3 runs to score or something. He allowed like a 3-run homer and then like another couple hits, maybe more than 3 runs. I don't remember exactly. But I'm not too worried about the Mets. Just gotta keep chugging along here, win as many games as you can. You don't have to win every game. Just, don't go on a like win 1, lose 1 stretch. Just, win 2, lose 1, win 3, lose 1. Uh, just keep chugging along, keep that starting pitching going, and hopefully it'll all work itself out. Finally, we're at the ice cold take segment. So, hang on, I should grab a drink before I do this. All right. So, the ice cold take segment for this week. Who else should fill out the New York Rangers bench? I think they should bring John Tortorella back as an assistant just to run the defense. Now, I know the insiders have been saying it isn't true that he's coming back to the Rangers behind the bench. And if he does indeed come back to the organization, I'd be wary of him being in a front office role. The Rangers need fresh eyes in those departments, not older ones. And I would also bring back Dan Muse to run the penalty kill and for his connections with USA Hockey. Michael Pekka should be the head coach of the Hartford Wolfpack so that he can maybe become the head coach after Sullivan. And then lastly, someone needs to run the power play. And if Mark Savard isn't hired to be a head coach somewhere else, go get him. Seriously, read up on his power play strategies. They are insane. He's the assistant coach for the Maple Leafs now. The Leafs were 1 for 21 on the power play in the playoffs last season when they were eliminated in the first round against the Bruins in 7 games. This season, they were 6 for 17 against the Senators and won that series in 6 games. It's a huge difference. Big reason why they went up 3-0 in the first place was because of that power play. He also coached Will Cooley with the Windsor Spitfires, so there's some familiarity there. I don't expect Savard to be available, but if he is, you got to take a serious look at him to be an assistant coach there. If he's not, I don't know. Maybe you just bring Pekka back. I'm not too certain about that. But personnel wise, the Rangers got to do something different for the power play. It's run dry. They tried the same 5 guys out there, and then once they acquired JT Miller, they mixed and matched one of those guys in there. So they used like 6 guys pretty much to fill 5 spots. And That didn't work out. So I don't know. Maybe Sullivan has a good eyes, maybe a new perspective on the situation. That needs to change though. Power play is a big one. But yeah, Dan Muse coming back. And if you don't bring Torts back, then you gotta look at some of the other defensive coaches out there that wouldn't mind being an assistant. That's the thing, is that there's a lot of assistant coaches in the NHL that are going to be looking for head coaching gigs because they're ready for that opportunity, and I don't blame them. So the answer wasn't Phil Housley for the Rangers. Uh, maybe you bring Boom back. I have no idea. I couldn't tell you, but I would not mind. I would actually prefer if Tortorella came back just to coach the defense, not be the head coach. We already know that's not happening. Dan Hughes, the penalty kill was our saving grace. It was the reason the Rangers were kept in the playoff hunt for so long. Um, you can't convince me otherwise this past season. So bring him back. Plus, because of his connections to USA Hockey, worked with Gabe Perreault, so there's the familiarity there. But overall, Mike Sullivan behind the bench is a really good hire for the Rangers. But more work needs to be done. This isn't the end here. You need to mix the right components together. Uh, Defense, defense, defense. That's the priority. We'll see what happens there, but this is a good episode here. I'm going to call it here. I hope everyone enjoyed listening to this episode of Ice Cold Takes. We'll be back next week with another episode. I hope you guys enjoy your week, and we'll see you next time.